And Islam is a matter of life and death. And joining this deen means you have to obey unconditionally. It's not just a religion, you say, okay, I'm Muslim now, but I don't follow this. No, when you come in, you complete, you submit yourself, especially when you're in the presence of Allah's Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He gives an instruction, there is no ifs, ands, or buts. So some people actually entered Islam without realizing the seriousness of it. And this is why in the inaugural surah to the Ummah, Surah Al-Baqarah, when the Muslims, first Allah says, وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا. We have made you a middle nation. He inaugurates us as an ummah. But then He leaves us in no misconception that this is going to be a bed of roses. Just a few words later, after He tells us that we are an ummah, He says, وَلَا تَقُولُوا لِمَنْ يُقْتَلُ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتٍ. Don't say about the one who gets killed in Allah's path that they're dead. This is before Battle of Badr, before everything. Allah is still saying, you might get killed in Allah's path, by the way. Congratulations, you've joined the ummah. It's going to be a matter. And then He says, وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ. So you just became Muslim, and what does Allah say? He says, we're going to test you. No doubt about it, we will test you. By putting you in situations of fear, by putting you in situations of starvation and hunger, and by causing you loss in your manpower, in your numbers, in your own selves. You might even lose your own life, and even your assets, athamarat, your fruits. So you're like, really? I might lose all that stuff? This doesn't sound very good. What is the very next words? وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ. Congratulations to people who have sabr. Right? Allah sets our mind straight and says, the real congratulation isn't when you're safe, or when you're not in a position of fear, or when you keep your assets with you. The real congratulations is for the one who can come into this deen and remain constant on this deen. وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ. الَّذِينَ إِذَا أَصَابَتْهُمْ مُصِيبَةٌ قَالُوا إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. Those who an affliction fell upon them, they said, we belong to Allah, we have to return to Him anyway. Congratulations to those people. They've understood what they got themselves into. These are the people who understand what they have entered. Now, these casual enterers into Islam, you can call them weak believers. You don't necessarily call them hypocrites. You can call them weak believers or unaware believers. Maybe not as conscious of a group of believers as they should be. When the instructions for battle came, will you realize now this is not a casual affair? We're about to go to battle. What? I thought this was about salat and akhirah. What do you mean battle? Battle who? Okay, fine, battle. Maybe we'll take on one of those skinny tribes on the side. Who are we going to take on? Makkah? The Quraysh? Ain't nobody ever beat Quraysh. Right? How are we going to do that? Now you realize the seriousness of the matter. So now, if there was this seedling of hypocrisy deeply buried inside that didn't show before, now when the call is made for battle, all of a sudden, I'm not so sure about this. I'm not so sure if this is the way I want to go. But you don't want to say that. You don't want to say, I'm not so sure if this is a good idea. You have to come up with a creative explanation that makes you look alright. It makes you look like you're not a coward. At the same time, it doesn't expose your hypocrisy either. But you don't want to go to the battlefield either. So what do? Here's the ingenious solution some disbelievers came out with. Where's the surah that says we should go to battle? They came to the messenger and said, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, you want to go to battle? How come? I didn't hear any ayah. I didn't hear any Qur'an that said that. Were they actually looking for an ayah or looking for a way out? They were looking for a way out. Because they said, look, these are the words of Muhammad. Now understand, pay attention to this part and I'm done. If you understand this part, the whole surah will make sense to you. Why the word Muhammad is used. They said, this is Muhammad. We want to listen to the Rasul. What does Rasul mean? Messenger. So when he's a messenger means when he's delivering a message. A message is from Allah. Meaning the messenger, he's a messenger when he talks about the Qur'an. Otherwise, himself is just Muhammad. When he is a messenger, when he takes the role of a messenger, we'll listen to him seriously. When he's just himself, this is his own personal initiative. He wants to go into battle. It's just like what Musa alayhi salam was told by the Israelites. فَذْهَبْ أَنْتَ وَرَبُّكَ فَقَاتِلًا. You go and your Lord go fight. Both of you guys go. إِنَّا هَا هُنَا قَاعِدُونَ. We're sitting over here. We'll wait for you over here. Right? That's what they told him. They told Musa alayhi salam. So now they're saying that no Qur'an came down. You just want to go on your own. So in other words, they wanted to make a distinction between what the messenger wants and what Allah actually wants. The term in the Quran is يُفَرِّقُونَ بَيْنَ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. They cause distinction between Allah and His messenger. They do that. This is an act, this is an activity, this is an exercise of the hypocrite. The classical exercise of the hypocrite. To try to make a separation between Allah and the messenger. The modern way of doing that, and even the ancient way of doing that, the separation between the Quran and the what? The Sunnah. And that's what that is. So now they said, how come the surah came down? And this surah will also mention, لَوْلَا نُزِلَتْ سُورَةٌ. How come the surah came down? Their words are recorded. So Allah said, فَإِذَا أُنزِلَتْ سُورَةٌ. When the surah does come down, which this is the one, it came down. And so I'll begin just with the first ayah and we conclude. Now you'll understand the context of it. الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا وَصَدُّوا عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. Those who disbelieved. Those who disbelieved. Who is that a reference to? It's a reference to the Quraysh, who have just given the Muslims a hard time for well over a decade. And the Muslims have now migrated to Medina. And so it's become clear that they're not going to come back to Islam. They're no longer interested in da'wah. All the opportunities of da'wah have been exhausted upon them already, which means they are no longer potential customers for Islam. Their case is closed. So Allah doesn't even say, الَّذِينَ يَكْفُرُونَ, those who disbelieve. Actually He says, الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا, those who have disbelieved in the past tense. In other words, their case is done. They are the way they are. This kafaru is actually qat'i now. And then He adds, وَصَدُّوا عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ, those who disbelieved and obstructed from the path of Allah. Al-Kashaf will comment, he says, صَدُّوا قَدْ يَكُونُ, he says, لازم أو متعدي. لازما أو متعديا. The word صَدُّ, to obstruct, could be transitive or intransitive. Intransitive is lazim, transitive is muta'addi. Let me tell you what that means in simple English. Lazim would means they obstruct others from the path of Allah. Intransitive means they obstruct themselves from the path of Allah. They stop themselves from the path of Allah. By using a word that is both transitive and intransitive, Allah included two groups of people in that word. The first phrase was الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. Those who disbelieve, it's clear who they are. What about the second phrase? وَصَدُّوا عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. Those who stopped others from the path of Allah and stopped themselves from the path of Allah. This is two groups of people now. This is the disbelievers, of course, but who else? The munafiqun, who stopped others from obeying the messenger and stopped themselves from obeying him too. وَصَدُّوا عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. All the efforts they can make, all the planning they can make, all the strategies they can construct, what does Allah say about all of them? أَضَلَّ أَعْمَالَهُمْ. He put all of their deeds to waste. He multiplied by zero, cancelled out all the plans, all the strategies, all the efforts, all of them put together. أَضَلَّ أَعْمَالَهُمْ. He put them to waste. In other words, what we're learning here is the kuffar make a lot of strategies against the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The hypocrites make a lot of strategies. It's not like their efforts to undermine the Messenger's work is casual. That's a big project too. They have to have late night meetings and make, list items and, give assignments to each other also on how to undo the mission of Allah's Messenger. It takes a lot of work also. But Allah says all those efforts, أَضَلَّ. He put them to waste. He put them to waste. Now here on a subtle language note, even though I'll get into the language next week, Allah says, أَلَمْ يَجْعَلْ كَيْدَهُمْ فِي تَضْلِيلٍ. The past tense form of that word is ضَلَّلَ. And even then I translate it to put to waste. But here is أَضَلَّ. He didn't say ضَلَّلَ أَعْمَالَهُمْ, he said أَضَلَّ, from إفعال. إضلال, that's the masdar form of it. The difference between the two is تَضْلِيل means to put something to waste over time. أَضَلَّ means to put the whole thing to waste at once. To nullify the whole thing at once. Why did he use tadlil for Surah Al-Fil? They prepared the army, they traveled for months and months and months, they came all this way, and then all that time he put it to waste. But here, Abdullah, they made these immediate, the plan for Badr wasn't something concocted over many years. It was sort of a rash decision by the Quraysh. They put their efforts together, they came against, and Allah says, He'll put them to waste. The second interpretation, though we'll look at others as well, that is offered by traditional scholars of the word أَعْمَالَهُمْ, is that disbelievers and those who obstruct from the path of Allah also do good deeds. A'mal here implies good deeds as well. They may give charity, they may even pray, they may even make dua, they may even be kind to their neighbor. They may do good deeds too. But because they did two crimes, What are those two crimes? You could fit both or any one. Either you did kufr or you obstructed from the path of Allah. What happens to your other good deeds? They get cancelled out. None of them count. So, and this is the classic mentality of a fajir, a sinful person who's either a disbeliever or a hypocrite. They think, yeah, I'm not exactly, I'm opposed to the path of Allah in this regard, but at the same time I do some good things in my life. I give donations here and there. I do some good things. I'm not entirely a bad person. I slow down when I see the 20 miles an hour sign at the school district, right? So I do my share of good deeds. In other words, Allah is saying, whatever good deeds they may have done, that may even actually have been good. And by the way, the Quraysh used to do a lot of good deeds. They took care of people who were coming for Hajj. That's a pretty good deed. They used to be very great hosts. That's a very good deed. They used to be very charitable too. That's a pretty good deed. So they had these good qualities too. Allah says, no, once you commit these two crimes, all of that goes to waste. Inshallah ta'ala, we'll have a detailed study of this and the rest of the surah next week. Barakallahu li wa lakum fil Qur'an al-Hakim, wa nafa'ni wa iyyakum bil ayati wa dhikr al-Hakim. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.